Hello everyone and welcome to this oil painting time-lapse of this painting entitled Invited to the Masquerade Ball. I really hope you enjoy it. I've literally just been having one of these weird and wacky days where I just dropped this painting on the floor and have tried to record this intro about 20 times. So I hope you feel my pain. I'm sure you do if many of you upload, which I'm sure you do as well. I'm just going to put that down there so I don't ruin it again. And I hope you're all doing very well and I'm having a wonderful week. I wanted to explain a bit about this painting before I go into the time lapse. This painting is actually based on a little bit real life and a little bit of fantasy, and the real life aspect of it was that I wanted to explore this idea of a girl who has never experienced being invited anywhere, which is something that happened to me when I was a child. Not so much that I wasn't invited anywhere at all, because that would obviously be a very lonely and despairing life, but I wasn't necessarily one of the popular kids when I was, particularly when I was a teenager. I was very skinny and I had big glasses and very greasy hair. My hair was always so greasy no matter how often I washed it, typical teenager. And I actually even at one point had a lazy eye, so I had like an eye patch, and basically everything I had, everything you can imagine I had. Even when I was a child, all my front teeth fell out at the same time. Most people's teeth fall out at different stages, but mine all fell out at the same time. For I wasn't really considered one of the cool, fashionable kids, not at all. And so when it came to being invited to parties with guys and, you know, getting asked out by guys, it really came much later for me. I was one of those kids that just thought, to be perfectly honest, I'm not even sure if any guy will ever like me in my entire life. Like, I literally thought that. And it was kind of sad at the time, but I didn't also think about it that much because I'd kind of just come to terms with it and thought I need to get on with my creative activities and work really hard at that because that's so important, and just forget about all those other things. I don't you know, have any boy that likes me or whatever. But then as the teen years slipped away, I started to put on weight. I got rid of my glasses, I got contact lenses. It was like a revelation. And all of a sudden I started to be considered much more conventionally acceptable, I suppose. I wouldn't say though that this was particularly great for me, because I feel like I spent a lot more time then on looking at clothes and trying to be really fashionable and trying to fit in with everyone, as opposed to focusing on my art and my music and drama. I actually did focus on it, but it became slightly less important for that brief period. And also hanging out with people that had similar interests to me also became less important, which I think was perhaps wrong at that time. But luckily after a while I realised that I had to become myself again, and even if it means that I'm uncool and you know, wearing a ridiculous wig and being silly on YouTube, that was much more my personality than trying to fit in. The idea of this painting was meant to represent all the people out there, whether you're a boy or girl, and you haven't been invited anywhere, you perhaps haven't been the most popular. I mean, you don't have to be young, you can be whatever age, and you perhaps feel sometimes left out or you don't fit in to a particular group. And this was just meant to be like a hopeful painting that you will get invited and you will find people that you can fit in with, and one day it will all happen and you'll get this amazing opportunity and it's right there in your hand, or at least it will be soon if it's not at the moment. So it's just a sort of hopeful idea and I really hope you like it. So I'm now going to switch to my actual oil painting time lapse. Not only am I having kind of a wacky day, but also the actual experience of painting this oil painting this week has been a little bit unconventional. It hasn't been quite as straightforward. About halfway through the painting, for some reason or another, I suddenly thought that the shadows in the face, my face, because it is sort of self-portrait, surrealist self-portrait, wasn't quite, the shadows weren't quite right and it didn't look candlelit enough. I quite like to create that atmosphere when I create portraits, and so I thought I need to change this. So I started to add a lot of shadows and a lot of highlights, and it started to become too shadowy and sinister, and it started to look really quite sinister and creepy, like it was sort of some face from a horror film. So I ended up having to redo all the skin areas and repaint them all, and it just took so much longer than it had done. And actually I think had I just taken 2 days over the painting as opposed to a whole week, it would have been better. So so there we are. We all go through these little disasters, and I guess we learn from them. you enjoyed this little story, and I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I will see you soon. Take care, guys.